Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time for Saturday, July the 4th. Holiday here in America. Okay, can everyone see and hear me okay? I can't hear myself as well as I would like to. Okay, thanks for the sign. How is everyone this morning? Looks like we have a sunny, beautiful summer day here in White Salmon today. And some friends from Portland coming out to offer the meal here at the Hermitage, which is nice. That still hasn't happened all that many times since late March. So nice to have at least a little opportunity for hosting people and gathering. So Shelley brings up a good question. Should we repost yesterday's question? You're always welcome to repost yesterday's question. So I can't always get through them all. So yesterday, Ajahn Viradamo was scheduled to do a Zoom talk. I didn't catch that myself, but I think it happened. And for those who've been following Ajahn Suchito's talks, he gave one this morning, West Coast time. I guess he's in Switzerland now. And instead of there being a talk later today, there's an additional talk Sunday morning West Coast time. So note the time change was what it said on his website, or on the Dhamma Tracks website. So as people can tell, I have a freshly shaven head. So in addition to being Independence Day in the US, it's also shaving day in the US. So tomorrow is an Uposatha day, and it will mark the beginning of the Vasa season. So there's 3 seasons in Buddhism: the rainy season, the cold season, and the hot season. So in South Asia, the hot season is ending and the rainy season is beginning. So, and that's in our Buddhist calendar. So then on Monday, there's usually a ceremony that the monks need to do, whether they're living alone or with another sangha. They need to determine either then or in the following month to take up residence and observe some restrictions for the Vasa period. It's almost like a commitment of stability, a little one. The many Christian monastic traditions take vows of stability, which we don't. We're homeless. Our monastery and our discipline is portable. So, and our commitment to Sangha is as well. So, let's see, 76. Okay, well, that's 76 people now. That's normally everybody who wants to be here or can be here today. One last little bit. I got a few messages from people that I was looking a bit fuzzy. So if people want to give me feedback on that level, that's good. I appreciate it. I'm trying to do this without my glasses on, and I have a screen halfway across the room, and to me it looks sharp, and I have other ways to check things, but it's hard to sort out what's going on here and what YouTube is doing. So I always welcome production feedback. So also, a few people were a little annoyed that this guy never seems to hang straight, and I share your pain. So so the other day we were talking about, I think Marianne had asked a question about exceptions to the first precept, and in that discussion I told a story that was trying to underscore that, there's certain karma to being alive, and dealing practically with trying to live in the world. And one of the things I was really trying to focus on is don't get too dogmatic around sort of precepts. Remember, intention factors very strongly into the quality of the karma that one is making. So, and one of the things I maybe didn't emphasize enough is the extreme measures we go to sometimes trying to keep the first precept and abide with that. So last week, I think 2 nights out of the week, Ajahn Krunadhamma was rousted from his kuti from an invasion of ants. So hundreds of ants. And he just picked up his bedding and came into the main building and spent the night in here. And then he went back in the morning, and they were mostly gone. Did some more investigations, trying to figure out where they were coming from, how they were getting in, gently, in a non-lethal way, removing the ones that were there, cleaning things up a little extra. And sometimes we have various determinants, mentholated powders and oils, and there's certain things you can do, plugging up holes. And I think that went on for a couple nights, and then they lost their curiosity and went elsewhere. Last night I got the treatment just about as I was ready to drift off to sleep. These kind of smallish, smelly brown ants had invaded my sleeping area. So I sort of picked one off my neck and moved him to another part of the room, and then my hand started smelling, and I turned on the lights, and there were maybe a good 100 ants or so in and around everything. So, and I spent an hour in a non-lethal way removing them, finding where they were coming from, setting up some discouragements, and then had a few hours good sleep. So, and that's not uncommon. I remember one time in Thailand. In Thailand, they have these fairly large termites that are quite common in the Northeast. And I remember one night waking up. I can't remember what time it was. I woke up, and the whole inside of this wooden shack that I was living in, that's raised up on stilts, was just full of these rivers of termites, like just rivers, like streamlets, kind of. And I knew immediately that there was nothing that could be done about it. So I just picked up my flashlight, my robes, and went outside to gawk at the scene. And as I got outside, there was just a Mississippi of these termites streaming out of the forest across the cleared area around my hut. I don't know, it's like just this mass. There must have been millions of them. And then they were streaming up the poles that supported this little wooden hut. And one whole wall was just covered with them. So I carefully tiptoed out, went over to the meditation hall, and laid out a mat and slept on the floor in the meditation hall for the night. Came back in the morning, they're gone. So I guess they were just passing through. And I guess it's yet another blessing of living in the forest. One has to recollect, and our teachers, Ajahn in several of his translated talks about this sort of sense of my home. The gecko doesn't know it's your home, or the ant doesn't know it's your home. That is the sankhara, right? I've somehow determined this is my space, and living in the forest or living in nature really challenges that. You really have to contemplate that you are just a visitor and that you're sharing this space with other living beings. Say in the built environment, especially in the developed world, and I don't know, sometimes I'm in the suburbs and it feels a little bit like the dead zone, like a dead zone, because there isn't that sense. Nothing is tolerated. And great effort is expended to banish any inconvenience from the beings that we don't like. Some of the beings we like are encouraged by the billions. And others are not. So, and we get used to that. And you go out in the wilderness armed with the 5 precepts and a determination not to harm other living beings. You really have to submit and learn how to abide. And I remember the first time I had to kind of pick up and just grab my stuff and go sleep somewhere else. I remember feeling a bit miffed, a bit violated. And then I remember just thinking, you're just a visitor. You're not even a Thai person. You're here in another country, visiting a monastery, given a room for the night, so to speak. This literally is not your home in so many ways. If you want to talk about rights, they have more of a right to be there than I do. So, was there much damage to the hut following the termite? There was some damage. They come and they have some way of dissolving little bits of the wood or something. So So it wasn't significant damage, but if you let that happen over and over again, there's a cumulative damage. So there's various things that they would do to kind of try to minimize that. One of them in the monastic rules, like before you actually build a hut, you need to sort of check the area to make sure there aren't termite mounds and that other critters are not inhabiting that area that would cause those kinds of problems. But once you've built a hut and it's been there for 10 or 20 years, sometimes these things happen. So anyway, back to this theme of abiding with. Several people wrote me yesterday and appreciated what I was reflecting on about abiding with an uncertainty, like the uncertainty of the time that we're living in. I was reflecting a little bit about just it's a little bit difficult to know on some level how these various dimensions of our life are going to play out. And I'd say there's a heightened sense of not being in control, not knowing, at least compared to maybe where we're used to being. Not really sure where we're moving politically as a country right now. Not really sure if we'll have effective therapeutics or vaccines anytime soon for the coronavirus. Not really sure what's happening monetarily with the world economy, with geopolitics. See, even some uncertainty just personally, like, is it okay? What is okay to be engaged in and doing it? How much should you hunker down, and how much should you take on some low risk and moderate risk engagements? So, and similarly, we can create some suffering around this, especially if we're used to what looks like a much more predictable, safe, and secure world. It never really is all that safe, secure, and predictable, but relatively. We go through periods of time where we're endowed with those blessings, like a relative or even a profound sense of stability and security and predictability. But in some sense, like in the human realm, we have no right to that. Those things are blessings. Human beings and human societies benefit from and are blessed when they can create the conditions to develop those things. But we have no right, in a sense. And ultimately, there is no security. So, like when we've enjoyed that blessing and in a relative way it seems absent, there's more uncertainty facing you. There's more doubt. It's less clear. Is that really a problem? Is that really something worth suffering over? So, I was listening to a health expert recently, and he was talking about just the challenge of creating vaccines and therapeutics for the coronavirus. And he said, we've lived through this time period where we've had such amazing breakthroughs, like say with antibiotics and various forms of modern medicine, that we've gotten used to feeling like in control. Maybe not complete control, but like a level of control that is kind of unprecedented in the history of human human beings and human societies. And there's something in the tone of the voice, the way he said it. It wasn't like dismissive or uncaring or something, but he just sort of said, that's been a blessing, and we might be facing a time where we're back to something that's a bit more normal, which is, yeah, there's a virus out there that you could get, that could end your life, and the doctors won't be able to do anything about it, and it could be affecting society like on a level that we're just not used to. But there's nothing wrong in a sense. Like, this is natural. This is normal. This is what human societies have always had. You know, you don't have to go back that far, even here, let alone in other places in the world, where that is the norm, on, for life on Earth, for human beings. So we should remind ourselves, this is not me, this is not mine, meaning like the Earth isn't here for us, not from a Buddhist perspective. It just is. So and again, we have to return to this dynamic of tanha, this inability for us uh, to sense this uh, obsession with uh, wanting what could be, instead of being at peace with what is. It's this movement outwards where we give up the presence of being loving and equanimous and contented with what is and engaged in the good. So, and we have to develop a sensitivity to that, like returning again and again to like what's going on. And for me, I use this word dissonance all the time. You just sense, like, how do you feel right now? Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel at ease? Like sitting where you are, doing what you're doing? Or is there this kind of dissonance? And like this morning, I was just reflecting on this, and when I started my meditation, and immediately I sensing this kind of habitual background level of dissonance, discontent. I'd only been up for an hour or something, and I was already ordering the grips of some sort of unconscious background mood, um, based on some sort of habits of craving. And I often ask myself, what do you want? And to try to sort of unpack how tanha might be informing that dynamic. And the answer that came to mind is like, I'm not getting enough done. I got all these little projects and I'm getting behind in this, and I'd really like, there's things I'm excited about that I would like to do, and for various reasons, they're not, I'm not in control. I can't make them happen as quick as I want or as good as I want, or I can't do it all. There's only so much that fits peacefully in the day with wise boundaries and limits. And I haven't been paying careful enough attention to it, and it breeds a signal of discontent, whether you're thinking clearly about it or not. It's like background radiation or something, or like background noise in the experience of the heart. And this, when I was reflecting like that, this phrase kind of came into my mind, just sort of like, it's never enough, is it? No matter what you have, no matter how good, there's like so many good things going on in my life, good people, just so many blessings. And yet there's this habit of tanha and an inability to be content. It's never enough. It's never enough. When will it be enough? Will it be when COVID's gone? Will it be after the election? Will it be when we correct for various social injustices that exist in our society? The inequality that exists? It's delusion to think those things will be enough. They're never enough. They're never enough. There's something more essential, much closer to home, that's at the root of that experience. That experience of dissonance and discontent. So it's an interesting thought experiment sometime. Like, think about, the various things we can identify in the world and that we care about seeing addressed or fixed in this way or that way. And I don't know, imagine a half a dozen of them somehow miraculously are fixed. How long will they be fixed for? For a year? For 10 years? For a generation? Hmm. And it's an interesting thought experiment just to think, okay, well, let's imagine a world where this is better and that is better and this is better and that is better. Like, do you really think that will be enough? Does your experience of life support that? I mean, many good things have happened in our lives. And we very quickly sort of just adjust to that as the new norm. And these habits of longing for something to be ever different or better or more secure just roll on. So that's the predicament we're in. So, and it's important not to get lost in that delusion that it can be fixed out there. Good things can happen out there. There's lots we can contribute to. And there is a need to be constantly addressing and working on those things for the happiness and well-being of people in the world. But there's no end to it. The world does not end. It's another theme of Dhamma. You will not find the end of the world through that movement. You have to address the root problem of craving, how it arises, how it's maintained, how it ceases. So, and this whole path of practice, the development of goodness and virtue, plays a huge part, foundational part. But so much of it is waking up, just waking up to that fundamental delusion of thinking more can be done out there to address what really has to happen in here for oneself. Waking up to what dukkha really is and how it is that you do dukkha, and how it is that you can create the conditions to understand that and build the conditions to unravel those habits of discontent and dissonance of every sort. So I'm pondering vasana as a difference between anusaya. I'm now thinking anusayas may be negative traces versus personality traces. I have really found anusayas very helpful in the past. Okay, I'm not sure what the question is there, but morning, Chair. Have you ever discovered how to catch houseflies or get them out of the house without killing them? Yes. We have a million ways to do this. My favorite was when we lived at Baiguri. First few years, it wasn't too much of a problem, but then these people moved across the street that had an animal farm going, and it was in a very wet stretch of land right above the Russian River. So the paddocks and stuff like this ended up being an enormous problem for houseflies for us. And our two favorite methods were getting badminton bats and making little nets, and we would just go around and catch them. And Lumpur Pasano is the foremost in catching houseflies. He can catch them with his hand without killing them and then take them outside. But also, I remember him using these badminton rackets that we had sewn nets on. We had several of these around, and I mean, sometimes he would catch 100 of these before evening meditation in the summertime. And then we'd just take them outside and release them. So also we had this contraption that has spring-loaded chamber called the bug zuka. And it's this little tube and this little translucent thing at the end with a one-way door that would release when you shot this thing. It would basically vacuum up a bug. And I think we went through a couple of those, kind of going around and catching house flies. So we have these little clear things that we catch them here. We don't have so many here, so it's not a problem. But there's some. We got these from Lee Valley Hardware, which is a Canadian hardware store, but they do sell in America these little clear plastic things on a handle with a sliding door, and you can catch bugs with those. So we have several of them spread around the monastery here. So yeah, I catch houseflies all the time. Again, prevention is really important. So like, get them early. If you let them get in and start to breed, then it's more and more of a problem. So But yeah, we're good at catching houseflies. Okay, Dantika. Good. Well, if Dantika is satisfied with my image, I am satisfied. Let's see who else. Good morning, Charla. I've been using harmony singing to arouse joy in my heart, lift my spirits, to battle the stress of the pandemic, systemic racism uprising. It works. But is it the right way to practice? Is that what it says? But is it a right way to practice? Why wouldn't it be? Depends what we mean by practice. Like sometimes we get kind of trapped creating too narrow a definition around practice. So pull back and just think of right effort. So and if harmony singing arouses joy in the heart and helps you lift the spirits, and rebalance the mind, keep it from sinking, that's good. So it's right. It's right to overcome. It's right to overcome the pull towards negativity. So I was about to say by whatever means necessary, but not by whatever by whatever skillful means. Wholesome means. Nadine, may I share a poem on this theme? Search what you missed that day you were absent from fourth grade on being. So you want me to do a web search for that? Okay. I'll look that up. Ajahn, I'm finding it helpful to reflect on conditioning, such as racism, in terms of a sankhara, to be known and released. Can you comment? Yeah, I think people would do well to reflect on just their conditioning. Both how perception in some sense is so informed from just past experiences, past karma, and then it plays an important part in this concocting of sort of thing that sankhara is, what it is that we attend to, how it steers what it is we notice or don't notice, and then how volition sort of plays into that. So, and ability to sort of have heightened sort of awareness of the mind processes, especially when viewed within the kind of context of conditioning and absent self, I think it's good work. I wish more people would take up that work, know for themselves. So many people are just attached to identities, that even when it comes to racism, like, I'm not a racist, I am a racist. Like, most people don't really know themselves that well. So we know ourselves only dimly sometimes. And, along your second part of that question, it investigating that internally and externally, I think, is important. So, for many reasons, I mean, it helps develop, helps inform and support the kind of movement towards kindness and compassion and equanimity and understanding of both self and others. So, okay, well, I'm sorry if I missed anything, but I scanned all the way to the bottom, and I think we're going to wrap it up there today. A little bit long, but today's a holiday. Hopefully people have time. So, all right, well, happy Independence Day for everyone here in the United States. The real independence, of course, the real freedom comes when we address this root problem of craving. So, and the hopeful thing is that we can do that in both subtle and profound ways when we attend to our experience and we take up these teachings to kind of guide a re-examination of where the root problems lay. So, all right, be well, friends, and we'll see you tomorrow morning for the morning coffee time. So, have a good day.